Hey guys, my name is Kate. This is my first real YouTube video. I kind of just wanted to record a process of me painting a cat in acrylic gouache, the Holbein acrylic gouache, because I thought it would be fun to kind of share what, the color theory is with my palette and just generally talking about art while I paint because I feel like I could talk for hours about it. So this painting is pretty special. I'm painting it for one of my roommates who's graduating. This is her cat, lived in my house with me, so I consider it not my cat, but I love it like it's my own cat. His name's Monkey. You'll see a picture of him in just a second when I put up the reference picture, but I'm using Fabriano 100% cotton watercolor paper, 140 pounds, and a Masterson's Stay Wet palette. And so this is the reference picture that I used to get in the living room. He's so cute, and it's like a scarf on the left hand side here. And I really liked the way the sun hit him, and it kind of illuminated his green eyes, which I really liked. So about this painting, I took a sketch and I transferred it using graphite paper onto the watercolor block. And I kind of wanted to start with the background because doing the actual cat was kind of the step that scared me the most. And so the three colors that I started out with were burnt sienna, ash rose, and yellow ochre. And you can kind of see whenever, I create new colors, I kind of muddy up the old ones a bit, which is something that, I'd like to say I'm trying to work on, but realistically it's probably going to continue to happen. But I really wanted to emphasize the wood grain underneath him. Obviously it's not, you can see the reference, it's not the absolute same color as, the like lighter parts, but sometimes I feel like, whenever you use references, you can kind of modify it and kind of make the colors your own. I think especially with, wood, it's kind of not the most important part of the painting, so it doesn't really matter too much. And when I get to the scarf bit and even Monkey himself, I feel like I tried to stick more to the same colors. But the bit annoying part about this painting is that when I was recording it with my phone, my storage went out. So I didn't actually get the part of me painting Monkey, which is unfortunate. But I guess you live and you learn. Also, this is 2x speed painting. I really thought about including just the, 1x speed, but sometimes even for me, I feel like it gets boring sometimes, and it's already a 15-minute long video. So I kind of just wanted to make it more interesting, I guess. And I thought it was cool to, maybe just see how you would start a painting. So here I'm kind of trying to paint that light part of the wood. It's obviously I'm like using this kind of white, so it's not that super bright yellow color like in the photo, but I think it still works out. Honestly, I feel like I had a bit of a hesitation doing the glaze, the lighter wash, I guess, of the light part because I didn't feel like it looked super good. But honestly, I was just trying to get more contrast so that you could kind of see, especially when I'm painting the chair here, I wanted to include more shadows like in the photo. It's kind of hard to tell in the actual photo, but the right side of the chair is kind of in shadow and part of the middle is highlighted. So I thought it would look weird if the chair had some highlights and the floor didn't, because that doesn't make much real sense. Yeah, so here I'm actually adding the lighter part to the chair. This is just, I was using lamp black and light gray. It's called neutral gray number 1. I actually have so much acrylic wash. I have like 3 containers of it, and the acrylic wash pastel set, which I really enjoy. One of the colors that I used in that was a pale peach to make the lighter part of the wood. So here I'm kind of starting to paint the background behind his head. I wasn't really sure how to get that really good contrast between, you know, the like black part behind him and his actual head when I was painting it. Like painting his fur later. So I kind of wish that I had included that bit of gray part as well, so it just didn't look like solid black. I was kind of worried that it would look like the chair, even though that was, you know, part of the wall behind him. And something that I also didn't do, if you look super closely in the reference, that like red part is actually a brick wall, and I didn't include any bricks. I could have with the light gray that I'm using right now, but I didn't really think it was worth it to detract from the cat, which is obviously the main focus. Okay, so here we kind of switch gears to painting the scarf. And like I said, I have a lot of pastel colors. So the colors that I'm using for the scarf are kind of from that pastel set. The green, I guess it's like kind of vibrant green, is a pale lime. And the one of the blues that I was using was horizon blue, and pale aqua, I think, is what I'm using here. So this kind of dabbing technique, I think when I was editing it, there was like 3 minutes of me doing this. I was just trying to get the texture of the scarf, and I wasn't really feeling like the solid brushstroke was capturing that. So I was kind of dabbing my finger to try and create the like fabric-y look. And later on off screen, I also decided to include some of the threads, so I used a thin brush and kind of used lines to kind of show that there were threads going on. But I realized later on when I was, you know, doing this like peachy color, that I didn't really put the blue up high enough, like in the reference photo. Which I think is fine. It looks, you know, a bit different, but, you know, it's okay. And that cut right there was also because I added too much water for the blue part. You can kind of see it's like spreading into the peachy of the, you know, the other layer. But I was trying my best to kind of get that color the way I wanted it to be. And even here, I was having a hard time getting a yellow and brownish color, and here I'm like trying to add more of the yellow back in so it wouldn't blend in so much with the table, you know, above Monkey's head. So here I am adding a bit of shadow to the paws, you know, to give it more depth. And when I was editing this part, my like the paintbrush was going so slow because I was so scared of getting the black onto the brown part, because there was already a couple times where I accidentally dropped some water onto the page and I had to use a cloth to like get it back up. And for some reason with this Fabriano paper, it was warping underneath, which normally doesn't happen to me with acrylic gouache. So I'm honestly not too sure why that is the case. But okay, so I did get some painting of Monkey, like the actual cat part, but it's mostly just, you know, solid colors, not the actual hairs that I ended up adding in later. My technique, I've painted a couple cats before, but it hasn't, I don't think they've been this color necessarily. They've all been like tabbies or kind of white. And so I was kind of nervous about getting his actual color in, and I think when I was editing the video, there was a lot of waiting. Like I wasn't sure, you know, where I wanted to put the colors. I wasn't sure what kind of colors I wanted. So a lot of this was kind of, you know, vibing it out, I guess. Kind of seeing where I actually wanted to put all the colors. And I feel like that's kind of the main, you know, hard part of it all, is just putting the base color, you know, where you think it's necessary to go. And I just mean like including the fur and, you know, all this other stuff. So as you can see, there's like a million different colors going on. It was really interesting. I was trying to add more fleshy colors, I guess, for the base, because, you know, you can always put in black fur, but you can't always put in that base color once again. And so, you know, there was a couple times where I got a bit frustrated because I wasn't exactly sure where to put the lighter colors. So I eventually moved on to the black, as you can see. And also, when it comes to using black for acrylic gouache, I feel like it can sometimes, you know, not necessarily like mute the colors, but the black that the lamp black, I guess, it doesn't provide, you know, a super in-depth color. Like, I don't know, I really like Payne's Gray in the Grumbacher watercolor set, which, you know, when you combine it with like brown or the burnt sienna, it creates a much darker black, I guess. So I was kind of debating, you know, whether I should mix my own black. Like, I've never really done that before, unless it's with watercolor. I haven't really used, I don't really mix, I guess, a ton of blacks with acrylic gouache, or regular gouache, I guess, too. But anyway, yeah, I was starting to add in a bit of the shadows here, which I think, honestly, I really liked that part, especially using the white to kind of create the first little bit of fur that you can see. This is close to when my camera died, so later on, I add more fur so that the black looks like it's kind of reaching for the scarf. Oh, okay, so this part, I get this really weird thing when I'm painting with cats where it feels like without eyes, they're just like mindlessly staring at me from the paper, and I really don't like that. So kind of before I do anything else and I get to a point, I really wanted to add eyes, because it's really scary for me. I don't know why. It's just a weird feeling of having like an animal stare at you without eyes. So here I'm actually adding the eyes. And again, I wanted to use kind of the pastel colors, and I used a bit of, what kind of green was it? It was light green and another darker green that I don't remember the name of, along with, again, that pale lime as kind of the pastel. And I think you could see, but I added a bit of yellow. So before I show you the final result, thanks for watching, and I hope that it was semi-informative of like how I use the Stay Wet palette and how I use acrylic gouache in general. So here is the final result. I included, whiskers, the collar, some more rolls in his fur, but I hope it was an enjoyable video, and thanks again.